You know, for centuries, there's been this huge mystery at the very heart of biblical scholarship. How do you actually pronounce the four-letter name of God? So today, we're going to dive into the work of one scholar who stumbled onto something incredible. A secret rabbinic tradition, a kind of conspiracy of silence that was designed to hide the name right there in plain sight.
And that really is the question, isn't it? The common answer has always seemed pretty simple. But what if it's not? I mean, what if the pronunciation wasn't lost at all? What if it was hidden on purpose?
Yeah, for the longest time, the official story, the one everyone agreed on, was that after the temple was destroyed, the exact way to say the name just vanished. It was a piece of history, a linguistic puzzle with no real answer. But it turns out there's this trail of breadcrumbs, and it kind of blows that whole idea out of the water.
So, where do we even begin? Well, our story actually kicks off not way back in ancient times, but in the 14th century, with a rabbi who left behind this incredible breadcrumb trail, hinting that a secret chain of transmission was still very much alive.
Okay, so this rabbi, Menachem Kamian, he points to this one specific verse in Exodus, and he basically says, look, the secret isn't just in the letters of the name itself, it's actually encoded in the words God uses to talk about his name.
So how does this actually work? It's pretty clever. The word for forever in Hebrew is le'olam, and it has three specific vowel sounds. Rabbi Menachem Lomian taught that these vowels were a mnemonic, like a memory aid, that perfectly mirrored the vowels of the divine name, o, and ah.
But wait, it gets even more precise. They used a second mnemonic device, the word shak shak. Now this word, it's actually an acronym. It's made from the first letters of the Hebrew names for the vowels themselves, shva, kamat, and kamat, which gives you the sounds a, ah, and ah. I mean, with this, there's just no room for mistakes.
And here's the kicker. This wasn't something he made up. You have to imagine the researcher reading these words for the first time. He said he was literally shaking, in tears, because this rabbi is saying straight up, hey, this secret was whispered to me, I'm part of a chain.
Okay, so the trail doesn't just stop there. It doesn't go cold. We're going to fast forward about 250 years into the 17th century, and we find this private letter, a letter between two of the most respected rabbis of the day that was absolutely never, ever meant for us to read.
So what are they writing about? They're talking about this future time, the world to come, when they believed the name would be spoken freely again. And get this, the question between them wasn't if the name would be spoken again, it was just confirming how it would be spoken.
And bam, there it is again. One of the rabbis, Rabbi Shlomo Dietz, he uses that exact same code word, shakak, confirming the vowels, shva, kamat, kamat. He just says it like it's a known fact between them, like, you know what I'm talking about.
But it's the response from the other rabbi, a really famous guy named Maharam of Lublin, that just shows you how high the stakes were. You can almost feel his panic jumping off the page. He's basically saying, are you crazy? Do you have any idea how dangerous it is to put this in writing? This letter could be intercepted.
And then he lays down the law with this command. This tells you everything. This wasn't some casual academic chat. This was a secret they were actively protecting, out of reverence, but also out of fear. He was part of what the researcher calls a conspiracy of silence. And honestly, if his students hadn't decided to print his letters after he died, this whole thing would have stayed hidden forever.
Okay, so this is where the story just gets, well, unbelievable. It takes this wild, personal turn. So the researcher, a guy named Nehemiah Gordon, he's deep in all this stuff, his head is just spinning, and he decides to take a break, work on a little side project.
I mean, he'd been working around the clock on this, totally obsessed. He just needed something else to focus on, you know? Something to kind of clear his head. So he decides, hey, I'm going to trace my family tree.
So as he's digging into his family history, he finds this ancestor who is only known as Batsheva, which just means the 7-year-old girl. Nobody knew her name. But he keeps digging, goes through these old Russian tax records, and he finds it, Sarah. He said he just broke down and cried, finding the name of this little girl who had been lost to her own family.
Finding Sarah's name was a huge deal for him. But it was nothing compared to what he found next. Because as he went further and further back, connecting all the dots, he found a name that made his blood run cold. It turns out he was the 11th great-grandson of Rabbi Maharam of Lublin, the same rabbi, the one from that secret letter in 1608, the guy who demanded the secret be hidden away.
I mean, can you even imagine?
The very man who was part of this conspiracy of silence was his direct ancestor. He said in that moment, it all clicked. That burning need he always felt to uncover this secret, it wasn't just about research anymore. He felt like it was an ancestral duty.
But you know, that conspiracy of silence, it couldn't last forever. By the time we get to the late 1800s, some rabbis were starting to push back. They were questioning the whole tradition.
This one rabbi, Jacob Bachrach, he really threw down the gauntlet. First, he confirms the pronunciation again, shva kamat kamat. And then he makes this incredibly bold statement. He says, the silence, it's not a biblical command. It's just a really, really old custom. And the implication there is huge. A custom can be changed.
And then he closes with this powerful, almost prophetic vision for the future. He talks about a time, a future time, when that custom of silence would be gone, and everyone, all people, would call on the name, spoken correctly.
So when you put all these pieces together, what you have isn't a name that was lost to history. It's a name that was hidden. It's like this hidden chorus of voices, stretching across centuries, all whispering the same secret, passing it down very, very carefully.
Which, of course, leaves us with a really big question. If you uncover a secret this profound, what's your responsibility? Do you respect the silence of the people who worked so hard to hide it? Or do you honor the name itself by finally bringing it back into the light?